Namaste. I am Gloria Grace Rand, and I am so delighted to be with you for another edition of Live, Love, Engage. And we've got an amazing woman on the show today that I can't wait to chat with and to learn more about her and have her share her story with you all. So I want to welcome, first of all, Ruth Yunker to Live, Love, Engage.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I am very pleased to have met you virtually here for a moment. And because I'm really excited to learn more about you. But let me tell our listeners and those watching on YouTube what you've been up to. So, Ruth is a writer, a humorist, and traveler. And she is also a fledgling model at the young age of 73. She's been writing for 40 years and has published short stories, magazine articles, and book reviews, and also 3 books of her own as well. Her first 2 were about her stays in Paris, and her current book is called Baby, I'm the Boss of Me, My Journey to Ageless, which consists of stories of her life and how now she's facing the 3rd trimester of life. Ooh, and there's a copy of the book right there she was showing. She's doing it with joy, personal power, and above all, a healthy sense of humor. And there's more there, but I'll maybe let you share a little bit more of that. So let's see, I'm trying to think where to start. And I know a lot of times when I'll have guests on, I ask them about, what, what got you to where you are today. And so maybe I'll ask you, why did you decide to write this latest book? We'll start with that.
Okay. I've been writing forever, and I stopped writing fiction pretty early on, and for the last 20 years, I've just been writing about my, like memoir, essay type stuff. So that's what this. So it was a change of genre, but it was also I reached the age of 50 and I stopped drinking, which was very important, needed to be done. And at that point, first of all, I taught yoga for 7 years. I couldn't pick up a pen for 7 years. But I decided to start writing exactly what I want to write. And what I wanted to write was humor. And so I also then at that time began traveling to Paris and by myself and staying in an Airbnb and having to go to the grocery store and the laundromat. And in the end, this has been like for almost every year for 16 years, I have a whole social life over there, thanks to social media, and a normal life. I mean, I did the tourist stuff. I don't do that anymore. I go over there and just live there. And so I love it.
Right.
But then I turned 70 and that totally freaked me out. Was carrying things too far. I remember turning 60 and having a beautiful birthday party for myself, all women. People give you great presents when your birthday has a 0 at the end of it, It's like, oh, this one's important. Okay. And a friend of mine at that time, who was older than I am, said, come on in, the water's fine, about being 60. So when I turned 70, the number just didn't flow. I personally don't care, but I knew exactly how it looks to the world, or how you say, if I'm 70, I mean, people have stereotype reactions to it. So do I, quite obviously, because there I was having a meltdown on my 70th birthday, quietly in the country somewhere, it's just, and then suddenly I was 71. And then 72. I mean, and I didn't feel any different. The morning I woke up when I was 72, I looked in the mirror and I thought, I now understand the meaning of the word ageless. This is called My Journey to Ageless, Baby, I'm the Boss of Me. I understand it because I didn't personally feel what my stereotypical idea of what 70 would be like. I didn't look like it.
Mm.
For all the various reasons. And all of a sudden, I understood my age was meaningless. And anyway, at that point, I'd been doing memoir essays all along, but I decided to put it specifically in a book and write about how I'm aging and how I feel about it.
Mm.
And if anybody likes what I have to say, then they can do it too.
I like that. And I can relate. Now I am, as we're recording this, I'm 2 weeks away from my 60th birthday.
There you go. Have a big party. You'll get great
Well,
gifts.
I tell you what I decided to do was I for years had wanted to host a retreat. And I,
Huh.
for one reason or another, never did it. And I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to host a retreat this year. And so I'm
Good.
doing it like the weekend before my birthday. There was a full moon that weekend. And
Uh-huh.
I just thought, oh, this is perfect. That's what
Yes,
I'm going to do. But
perfect.
yeah, so I totally get that. Yeah, it's you do want to celebrate those milestones. And I can also understand 70 kind of being,
Yes.
strange because I know, well, because I mean, my mom passed at 78. And so I'm sure when I hit 70, I'm probably going to start wondering about it myself a little bit. But I don't feel like 60. And yet I remember when I was a kid and you would see people who were like 60 or 65 and oh, they were so old. But
Yes.
I don't know if it's because we are baby boomers that
Yeah.
it's different now. We're living differently, I think, too, and than our parents or grandparents did. And so tell me a little bit about, because I've seen some of you. I know you've got like an Instagram account and you've got pictures on there, and so tell me about this modeling that you are doing, because that I love. So you'll have to check her out. Tell everyone like what your Instagram
Well, it
account
was
is so
a
people can
challenge. I
follow
wanted
you.
to be a model when I was 16,
Ah,
and I just life interfered, and and I didn't. Yeah, my mother said,
yeah.
"Well, we'll send you to New York then." But I'd had a peripatetic childhood, lived a lot of places. I didn't want to go anywhere. And I knew I wasn't tall enough at the time, didn't have quite the right look. I just knew it, no, don't bother. Anyway, so life goes on, and was having dinner with someone in January. He's kind of a marketing person, we're friends, and I was saying, yeah, well, I just, you don't make a whole lot of money writing books, and
Mm.
you get a lot of personal satisfaction, but and I said, yeah, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna be doing the speaking thing now that the pandemic is over, that kind of thing. And he leaned back and he
Right.
said, you said you wanted to be a model when you were a teenager. If you want to make some money, why don't you model? There's a whole huge world for, they call them silver models, all those women
Mm.
who keep saying on Instagram, they keep saying, I began transitioning into my gray. And I'm thinking, do they know anything about transgender issues going on these days and what they sound like compared to what these people are going through with just going gray, for God's sake? And
Right.
they usually have gorgeous heads of hair too. So I couldn't go gray if I don't want to go gray. So not now. White. My hairdresser is saying we're pretty close to white. And I'm saying when I turn 80, I'll go white.
There you go.
Um, yeah, so he said, why don't you try it? And I said, well, I don't have a clue how to get started. I live in LA. That's just like a hopeless situation. He said, well, you should try it. You should try it. The speaking thing, you're not going to like it. And I just know you. And he said, but get professional headshots.
Mm.
And therein began in February my journey into this whole modeling world, and also being out here in Los Angeles that involves the Hollywood world and the Hollywood mindset.
Yeah.
And I am not looking to do fashion modeling in fashion magazines.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not old. I mean, there's women who have been models since they were 20 who are now 70, and they're gorgeous, and that's their world. I
Right.
am a commercial and print model, which means I'm going out for commercials, and
Okay.
in the background of an AAA ad in, Westways, there'll be a picture of the grandma with her little kid or something. And it's a slow process. I mean, it took me months to get the headshots and get them redone. And, it's like that. But
Right.
I'm now sending out, I've had 2 auditions back, which apparently is excellent. I didn't get
Mhm.
either job, but I got the call back.
That's right.
And I'm just, that's where it is. But what's turned out to be an issue with it is fitting it in to my current life.
Oh.
So when you take on, I'm always big on saying, take on the new thing, be brave, be open, be curious, whatever age you are. But you
Mhm.
have to fit it into what you're already doing. So
Mm.
I've done very little writing since this has started. And I don't like that because I have my next book is in mind. And but I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out one day at a time.
There you go. Well, are you a morning person or a nighttime person?
Oh, morning.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean, you can show me the bedroom door at 9 o'clock and I'm in
okay.
it and I'm up at 5:30 or 6.
All right. Well, then what I would recommend is you just need to start putting a couple minutes in, even if it's 15 minutes a day, to start writing and do it first thing in the morning before you get too involved in anything else. Because
Yeah,
I know when I was writing my book, that's what, when I got stuck for a while, I had a coach tell me, just do 15 minutes. Even if you don't write, but just dedicate that 15 minutes, maybe even you're just thinking about it.
that's so true. And I mean, I have a wonderful friend, and also she's also a writing instructor, just marvelous. And she says, write 45 minutes in the morning. And that's not how my last book got written. And I'm not talking about editing
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah. That's
rearranging
different.
it, or I'm
Yeah.
talking about rough draft.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, the other big thing is don't start at the beginning. It's that poor kid that stops every writer in the world. Oh my God, once upon a time. But that's so true. And I look at myself, and my morning consists of getting up and going for a walk on the boardwalk, which I am not going to stop. That has to come first. But when I come home, I sit on my balcony with my coffee and peruse the world. Instead, I could. That's a very good point. I'll take you up on it.
Okay.
Balcony can wait for a while.
Yes, that's true.
It's there in the evening when I'm ready to go to sleep. I can sit out on the balcony.
There you go. That's it. Yeah, absolutely. So, what, um, well, tell me a little bit about you going to Paris. So, what was that like? Because I know I've actually talked to another woman I had on the podcast not too long ago who does she's like a digital nomad, and so she travels around Europe. And actually, my daughter is doing that as well. She's living in Europe actually right now.
Where
Um,
is she?
she is in Hungary right now, and maybe moving to Germany temporarily because her
Visa.
significant other is doing has some work there for taking a
Yeah.
internship for a few months. But um, so what did let's start with this. What did you like best? What did you like best about living in Paris?
Well, let me first say that I never liked Paris. I lived in Belgium when I was a teenager, in Brussels, Belgium, for 3 years. I saw Paris for the first time when I was 12, and I totally thought it was a complete and total waste of time. It was dirty. It wasn't the United States. The Mona Lisa was this tiny little painting up there on the wall, and I didn't like it. So I was but it was a few years after I had stopped drinking and my mother had died, and I was the oldest of 6 kids, and I kind of kept the family home. It was a nice
Mm,
beach house here, and my father. So I was with him, and life still going on and all that. I mean, he was
mhm.
wonderful. It wasn't He didn't need caregiving.
Yeah.
But at one point I just thought I have got to get out of town. I'm going to go away for a year. I'll set it up and I'm going to do. And then I finally said, no, just make it 6 months. Okay, where are you going to go? Well, I'm going to go to Florence, or I'm going to go to Cairo, or I'm going to go to Iceland. I'm not going to go to Paris because Paris is such a cliche, right? But I learned to speak French in Belgium. I speak it with a
Mm,
Belgian accent, and I'm not fluent, and I can't speak it all when I'm home. But when I'm over there, for some reason it all works out. So I thought, be reasonable. Go to Paris because you're going to be in your own apartment by yourself for 6 weeks. And so that's how it started. And so I went off, not grudgingly. I mean, I was the minute I got there, I'm older now. I'm not 12 years old anymore.
right, exactly.
Yeah, and it grew on me. But the title of my second book is Baby or Paris, I've Grown Accustomed to Your Ways. And that's,
Mm,
because learn to do it the Parisians way.
mm,
Be polite like them. Don't, in every country, every time I travel, I try to do things their way.
yeah.
Somebody said, well, you're not being true to yourself. And it's like, oh, that old saw, are you kidding? You're being polite. You're
Mm,
also, since I was a new kid in so many schools growing up, I'm just aware people will understand you better if you do it their way. And I like to be understood. So, or how you dress, don't go over there wearing flip-flops and pink shorts, no, wear some black pants and some good running shoes and a shirt, and just do it. And then you get into it because it's just a costume like anywhere else. So I don't know. I can't I will say, as I think about it now, I haven't been since 2019. I'll probably go back next fall because really the pandemic gave me personally the excuse to stop traveling, and I've kind of liked it. Not tell anybody. But I like it's the part it's a big city, so there's the parts that I don't go to, I'm not just in the tourist area. I now stay where real Parisians live. I found my areas and everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot about it that's annoying. The Parisians themselves or their little ways of, I mean, they're just completely, but once you get used to that, and once you can make a Parisian laugh, which is my big thing, you feel pretty good. But they have kept such good care of that city. They have kept the spirit of it. They honor it. It didn't get blown to bits during the Second World War, thank God.
Yeah.
And so it really has that feel of old. And I love that. I'll just go sit in the cathedrals, different ones, and just sit there because you can. One time I wrote about this in my first book, I could actually hear kind of a ooh, ooh or a ghost like thing. And I said, well, I know it's not a ghost in here. If it is, that's fine. And I'm all for them. Just don't bother me, and I'll get along with you if you get along with me. But as I got up and began walking around the church, and then finally I went outside, there was a school right next door, and the kids were out in the playground. Which is kind of fun too. You never think of little Parisian kids actually going to school, but they do. They're so charming, the little ones. I have some French friends there, American, married to whatever, had to raise their children there. And I said, what happens to them? Because they're so charming. And then they turn into, these grown up, snitty, not everybody, of course, French. And he said, it's the schools. So the schools kill them. So for whatever that's worth.
Oh, well. What was your what would have been perhaps your biggest challenge in living there?
Oh, being in Paris?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, people always kind of ask questions from that. Somebody the other day said to me, what is the thing you worry about most? And what's the thing I feel good about most? Let's try that one. But I mean, the challenges were just the classic challenges you have when you go to a new city and have to move in and learn where the laundromat is. Getting my money back from the saleswomen at the Monoprix when I brought back a hair thing that didn't work. That was one of my biggest triumphs, that I actually got my money back and stuff.
Very good. Okay.
I was ready, and that was my first trip. I think the challenge would basically be me, my own self-consciousness, worried that I'm going to make a fool of myself. And that's just ridiculous because nobody is paying attention. They're really not paying attention to you. In terms of actually dealing with Paris, there is no challenge. You're in a foreign country, you're there on purpose, right?
Yeah.
You don't expect it to be everyone to stop in their tracks and talk to you in English. Unless you go to Oslo, they all speak perfect English in Oslo. I love Oslo.
Good to know.
Yeah, they start learning English in first grade because, as the Norwegians say, nobody speaks Norwegian, but everybody speaks English. So they speak it idiomatically. I mean, I was there for a month and I just loved it. In fact, my next book was, it's travel. It's going to be called I Cheated on Paris with Oslo.
Oh, I love that.
Won't tell Paris.
But that does make sense. I remember when I was in, I think, junior high, we hosted 2 exchange students from Norway. And yeah, and they were lovely young women, and yeah, it was really nice having them. Well, we've got a bug flying around my face. I don't like that. So you had talked about at the beginning that 70 was sort of this awakening moment. So now that you are, I guess, 73, so what are you enjoying most about this time of your life now?
I'm enjoying pulling the age card whenever I need to, particularly with my children who are grown-ups. And I mean, like, I remember the first time I did not feel the need to get up and give my seat to somebody else because I was darn tired at the end of the day, and it was in Paris, and I just thought, I'm keeping my little seat here. But I think one of the things I'm enjoying the most about this age is this is the first time in my life that I have lived alone. And I have wanted to live alone my entire life. I got married, or I had a big family. I mean,
Mhm.
I didn't have my own bedroom till I was 11. And I got married at 19. My mother said, "You think you're going to be free? I'm not going to be free." She was right. She's a very pragmatic woman. But anyway, and we had 2 kids, we were married, then we got divorced. And then for 7 years, I didn't have a partner. I mean, I didn't have a long term. I wasn't looking for a relationship because I had 2 toddlers, but I had toddlers. So I
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
alone. And that's when starting with the pets started at that point. And then I remarried and he had 2 children. So between us, we had 4. Then I divorced him and my mother died and I moved in with my father. And at some point, my son came
Mm.
back to finish his degrees. And so he stayed there too. And with by now 3 or 4 cats from both of us, we are a cat family. And so I didn't move out into my own apartment till my father died.
Mm.
Yeah. And I love it. I mean, I'm missing a pet and I've never had a pet unless I've had another person living in the house with me. And
Mhm.
it's not that I can't handle the pet. It's not
Yeah,
that. It's leaving it. If I'm going, it's by
right.
itself. And usually there would be somebody else there. So, but I just like being able to walk in the door and not have to look at the floor to trip over either a baby or a pet. I
Mhm.
don't have to ask anybody what they want for dinner and what do they want to watch for TV and will they please go to bed and can you keep it quiet? I can do exactly as I want. And at this age, there's a certain responsibility to being responsible. What you think you want to do, but there's also no rules. I mean, I just personally love that my daily life, my in here is just this is all mementos. I've pared all the furniture down at this point.
Mm.
This won't be the last place I live. I like to move. But yeah, I'd say and I always hate sayings about, like, what would your 16-year-old say to you? Or what would you say to your, that sort of thing. I
Yeah,
just hate those. I have a answer to that. And mine is ask your 16-year-old what she thinks of your life now.
yeah.
What does she
Mm.
think of you? And mine
Mm.
is saying, thank you for the modeling thing. I had no idea it wouldn't be this glamorous thing, but thanks. Nothing glamorous about it. But yeah, it's just, I like that when people say, I wish I had the wisdom or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
the
Right.
smarts to keep myself happy when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I certainly, by this age, it's entirely up to me. And I understand and believe that everything in my life is up to me. It is not somebody else's fault over there if
Mhm.
something goes wrong or it doesn't work out the way I want, or I'm in a bad mood. That's why I'm a little reluctant to embark on a serious relationship because I have to work on that one. It's your fault. I'm not the best with that. So I think I'm getting better. And I'm a I very serious yoga practitioner. And so that helps. But I think that's it. To getting to this age, I'm pragmatic about death.
Mhm.
I mean, one day I was worrying about something that I worry about, like in a circle that,
Mhm.
quit and worry. And I stopped and I said, here you go again on that topic. Why don't you, if you want to worry about something, look at how much closer you are to death than you were a few years ago. But as you start having friends, I start having friends dying and my parents dying, and I don't want to do it. But at some
Yeah.
point, I can also see that you've lived long enough, and it's like, show me what's next.
Mhm.
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, well, I had something I was going to ask, and now it just went out of my head, but that's
Oh
okay.
my God,
Mm.
me too. I mean, during the
Yeah.
course of all this,
Oh,
I've lost my train of thought a couple times.
I know what it was. I was going to say is if you wanted to have a pet, you could get 2 cats, and that way they can keep each other company when you do leave. So, because
Well,
I do have 2 cats, and I've gone away for the weekend, and they're okay.
Oh, and they're okay because I'm babysitting I live in a duplex and I'm upstairs and we're like a family of 3 in this house. And
Okay.
anyway, they have 2 kitties and they're away for the weekend. So I go down twice a day, and sit with
Okay.
them. But what about the long-term traveling?
Well, yeah, you probably would have to. Well, there are services that you can get where somebody will come in and take care of your cat. My son and his girlfriend did that because they traveled to Europe and they had a cat, and so they had somebody come in basically and house sat and or took care of the cat while they were gone. So
Yeah. Of course, I can beat that one to death too, which is after the leaving them at home, way back when I used to take my children, I lived on the East Coast at that point, out here to California for their summer vacation, I would leave my cats at a cat babysitting place. It was run by Doris Day. I swear she looked just like her. It was a big barn out in the country in Maryland. It was as good as it could get. And the three of
yeah.
them were together and stuff like that for 6 weeks, you know.
Oh,
And I wanted to do that because I didn't want to leave them in the house, because then subliminally in the back of their mind, every time you leave after that, when you didn't come back for a long time, they have no idea of knowing that
yeah,
it's,
that's true. That's true.
I
Yeah.
don't know. You know what,
Mm.
probably it would be no one around me, my friends, my pet, no one thinks I should have a pet right now.
Okay.
It's taken so long to get
That's
here.
fine. Yeah,
Leave it alone.
that's true. That's true. All right. I'll agree with them on that. That sounds reasonable. Um, what are you curious about right now?
Well, frankly, I'm curious about what this modeling thing is going to consist of. You know, it's been hard work. I took 2 classes this summer, both by Zoom, one taught by a really mean casting director out here, but it gave me a play. And then one, a woman who's seen me through some of the magazine. I write for Pro Age magazine on the internet and all that. And she said, and she's into that. She's my East Coast coach. He's more like, this is what, when you go in, or when you have to send them in a self-taped video audition, here's what you have to do. And I learned lingo, sides are your lines. I never thought about having lines. I just wanted to be in a picture where you smile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm having to remember how to memorize. And, but so I'm curious to see how that goes. And when I say curiosity, I think what I also mean, I don't mean so much, I mean for myself, but I think in this day and age, especially and I don't want to get political, but in the climate we have of everyone seeming to hate each other or hate this type person or that kind of, to stop that, to be curious about
Mhm.
the person you instinctively recoil from, you know, be curious about the new town you found yourself stuck in because your husband got a job there. Be curious about your daily life. Look at other people. It's not so much about what I'm curious about exploring. I mean, I tried to take up roller skating again last year, failed miserably. I was appalled. I roller skated as a kid, right? You know, like, you couldn't do it. I decided I'm not doing any sports in which you need to wear a helmet for fear of falling on your head. But that's more, you know, be curious about the world in general, something you don't know. If you don't believe in therapy, think about that. Why do you have that reaction? Or you don't care about the stars in the sky? How come? You know, they're there. If you don't believe in science, you know, hit yourself over the head and say that again out loud 100 times and see how smart that sounds. You know, I don't know. It's that kind of thing. And that's more what I mean. I mean, I could always be very curious about what outfit I'm going to wear the next time I take a picture for Instagram. I haven't bought anything new in 2 years, though. So I'm working on fumes here.
Uh-oh. Well,
Uh,
you'll have to get out there and go find yourself, treat yourself to something new.
yeah, I am. I'm treating myself to not going anywhere for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm going up to Oregon to visit my daughter for a couple weeks. I got stuck in Oregon. I had left I was in the mid, anyway, she lives in Oregon and my son lives here. And I went to visit for 2 weeks on March 12th, 2020.
Oh,
Pandemic
uh-oh.
hit. I was there for 3 months before she let me leave. She's a lawyer and, you know, you can't argue
Yeah.
with her.
No, no, definitely not. Yeah. I know how that goes. Well, yeah. And my daughter was in Germany at the time, and so she had to come home. And she was not too happy about that. So,
Oh, well, I'm glad you got her home, really,
yeah,
frankly.
yeah.
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 There's a time when they have to listen to their parents. I don't care how old they are.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Somebody said to
Oh,
me the other day,
goodness.
"What's the first thing you did this morning?" And I said, "Well, I had an argument with my grown son, actually."
Oh, well, that's good. And they're fun to to banter with and
Oh, I love my adult children. I don't know how mine are in their 40s. So, they've been a little beaten up by life now too. They're past. I mean, when I had a facelift when I was 57 or something like that. And the person I was the most afraid to tell I was going to do it, I wasn't afraid to tell anybody except my daughter.
Mm.
She was 25. She was appalled. How can you do that, Mom? Have a facelift. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the way you look. And you said, we're going to age organically and all that. And I wrote about that in my book, Baby, I'm the Boss of Me. It's that kind of thing. It's memory interspersed with how I'm dealing with these things as I come along with them.
Mhm.
And I realized that I remember my mother would say, should I have a facelift? And she had 4 daughters, or I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. And we'd all look at her and see her same beautiful face that we love.
Mhm.
Like our animals look at us. They don't know
Yeah.
how old they are and they don't care, you
Right.
know. And we'd say, have one if you want, Mom, it's all right. But my daughter was 25, and I think, and she's since apologized and definitely believes in Botox and will have a facelift when the time comes and everything else. She's 42 now. So, but I think it was that moment where you really see mortality. I think she looked at me and suddenly a big, strong mother who was totally assured all life, single parent for so much of it and so on. And
Yeah.
suddenly being vulnerable about, well, I think I'm looking older and I want to have a facelift. She felt that it scared her a little bit, I think, to see my not vulnerability, the fact that I wouldn't necessarily always be there,
Yeah,
or that
that's
I'm getting
true.
older.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you've made up, so that's good. And
Well, her mother-in-law is 85 right now and would like to have her chin done. She's 85. She has the money to have it done, but she grew up scrabbly hard and the 5 kids, and she's going to ask her daughters, and I know her daughters, and they are all, well, I no, I think they might be old enough now to be okay, but she's dragging her feet.
Mm,
Have it, if not now, when?
that's true.
It's
Yeah.
bothering
Might
her. I
as
mean,
well. Yeah, exactly.
yes.
Yeah. And that is, I think, the good thing to know and to appreciate is, yeah, when you do get to a certain age, and then it is the thing that I have appreciated as I've gotten older, as I continue to get older, and I would like to continue to get older for about another 40 years, um,
Yeah.
is
I think it's
is
105 for me. I'm not sure why, but that seems to be the
yeah,
age.
that's about where I'm headed as well. Is that we can start. Well, number one, I don't care so much about what other people think anymore, thank goodness. Like when you're younger and it's like, you're really concerned. But it's like, take me as I am. This is it, and it's nice to be able to have that, to be able to just say, yeah, this is me. And if you don't like it, oh well, I'm sorry.
And you feel really comfortable, in your
Yeah.
core. Your core is saying, yeah, you know
Yeah.
what? I do want ice cream for dinner.
Yeah. It's not going to be the end of the world.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. Nothing is the end of the world by
Yeah.
our age. And then wait till you add another, but 60s were great. My 60s were lovely. Well, every one of them has been pretty good except my 20s. My 20s I regret. But anyway, um, I'll see, my thought just flew out of my mind. So I thought,
That's
but
okay.
it's I don't know, it's something to do about being good. The good part of being older,
Yeah,
gets
exactly.
into acceptance as
Mhm.
well, which is something that is a hard concept to
Yeah.
embrace, but it doesn't mean being weak or giving in. It
Right.
means, frankly, I think it means go with the flow. If you can
Mhm.
see where the flow is going, then go that way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
You
for
know.
sure. Is there anything else that you'd love to share with our listeners that I haven't asked you about that you think would be useful for them to know?
About getting older.
Yeah, or anything else. I'll leave it
Well,
up to you.
well, my platform basically is about getting older, but it changed a little bit during the pandemic. We're there when everyone was bemoaning how they couldn't go out and they hadn't had a meal in the restaurant. Meanwhile, people are losing their money. It's not, I mean, I think you're privileged, I'm privileged, we're lucky, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Others just don't seem to get it. But anyway, I started on a big thing about start noticing the little miracles that happen every day in your house, in your kitchen, while making your bed, tripping over your cat, but whatever that you suddenly go, oh my gosh, look at the sunlight on that picture that I haven't looked at. And, because they're free,
Mm-hmm.
they're there for you,
Yeah.
whatever your spiritual beliefs are, plant that in there, and it makes your daily life so much more interesting.
It does.
And like, when is the little thing going to happen? The other day I was in my car, stopped at a light, and it was a rather wide intersection, and a man, he wasn't quite a street person yet, but he was veering on it, but his corduroy pants were a little battered, but anyway, and he was our generation, older, and he started walking across the street, and formerly a good looking man, and he started walking across the street, and then saw that maybe he wasn't going to make it. So as he noticed that, and I'm noticing it over here, he began kind of a skip, and then the skip, remember when you're skipping and your skip could get really big,
Yes.
he got there with his skip, getting across, and you could just almost feel the joy coming from him, like, oh my God, I still got it, and just how that feels when you lift yourself off the ground. I mean, I have scoliosis and arthritis in my lower back and injuries from sports all my life. And I can't jump. I'm not supposed to jump, and I can hardly jump, but that for me, there it was, free for me to see and take it in. And that comes in handy, that kind of attitude. And then the other attitude I have is, as you're getting older, quit complaining about it and start taking care of yourself. And by that, I mean, get a good exercise, don't gain weight. People say, oh, you're too thin. No, I'm not, do people ever I feel like sometimes saying, and you weigh too much, to these people who tell me that, but usually they don't. Really overweight people keep quiet about that. My daughter just lost 60 pounds this last year, and thank God. I was so worried, So, but she finally, something clicked, seeing all of my sister, I don't know, something clicked. And I said, just start walking the dog more often, and don't eat after 7 o'clock. Start paying attention. If you can go to bed feeling a little hungry, you have succeeded. But see, my mornings, I start early. So I start eating early and end early. But I believe in that. Taking care of yourself. Someone says, well, of course, yeah, you look good, because you work at it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's exactly why,
Right.
when do you stop working at it? When I see an elderly couple out on the street now, or an older woman or man by themselves, upright, beautifully dressed. My father got dressed every day, died at 93 because he'd missed my mother. He'd had it. So I can't believe it's time for me to go. There was nothing really wrong with him, except but he got dressed, fully dressed every morning. I don't. I have my yoga pants on and my comfortable blouse. I put on a necklace for you.
Thank you.
Forgot the earrings, but remember, got the, and that we are responsible for our own health. It is not somebody, our own state of being. I'm not talking about someone who's suffering from a chronic, serious depression or any mental disorders, or sometimes chronic conditions, though. You have to help. You are the one dealing with it, so you have to figure out a way to try and be happy about it, because and talk to your organs. Like, we all notice how bad our skin is. I have the oldest hands in the world. You can't, I said to my plastic surgeon, can I lift my skin on my arms? And I'm strong, I've got muscles, but the skin. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it. There is an arm lift. You wouldn't like it, and I'm not going to do it. So I've started telling my skin, thank you, but I tell my liver is thrilled since I quit drinking 22 years ago. It went right on. And really pay attention to that. If something's aching, well, what did you do? I have to know, if I suddenly have sciatica there, where did it come from? And I now know I have a chiropractor. He's every 2 weeks, but I use yoga to help me with that. And psychologically, if you don't believe in therapy, I'm sorry for you if you're depressed, because a therapist would help in a way that therapy helps, it's good for you. It's challenging. Maybe that would appeal to the person, you don't just talk about what I went in the first time and sat down, and I thought she was going to ask me a lot of questions. No, she said, well, start telling me about yourself. And one time after I finished a litany of this person had done that, that person had done that, she said, well, who is the common denominator in every story there?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. And
Oh,
the thing
don't you
about
hate it when that happens? And then
well,
you look at
I
yourself,
hate
you're like,
it.
oh.
I know, but I hate it for 1 minute. And
Yeah.
then it's like, that just gave me power back because
Yeah.
I am in charge of 50% of everything that happens to me.
Mhm.
Everything. So, if you're getting a divorce, I wanted both of my divorces and I got them, but it wasn't all his fault. Or even your children, I used to say to them though, when they were little, now obviously, they've got their own lives and everything, but they'd be standing there crying and I'm mad. And I never knelt down in front of them. I always stood above them, towered above them. I mean, it's all about power. It was particularly with little kids. But I said, why is mommy mad? Why is mommy mad at you right now?
Mm.
Oh, because I didn't want to put my shoes on. Right. Well, oh, and it began to sink in, they had caused it, cause and effect.
Yeah.
So if you're approaching, I don't know if you find yourself getting more and more depressed and you're not going out for your exercise and you're not walking and instead you're eating and you're just getting so depressed and you just can't figure out a thing to do with your hair. Oh, I just don't have any sympathy for that. I had to go through when I stopped. Sobriety hit my family like a ton of bricks because my son cracked up on drugs when he was 21. He's now a psychologist and he works with drug, so I had a good ending, but it was a very bad scene. And that was when I realized, number one, it's up to them. You can't fix them,
That's true.
Oh, I'm so unhappy because my son is still a drug addict at the age of 55. Well, stop paying for rehab. It's not doing any good.
Yeah.
I had to let my son go to the street and he didn't end up on the street, thank God. But I mean, I had to kick him out and, it took him 6 months to come around. And he said he finally, first of all, he noticed all his friends were getting way ahead of him because he's an arrogant, intellectual, person about himself. So, but he said, that he finally realized he could have all the drugs he wanted or everything else. He couldn't have both, but he had to decide that. That isn't something anybody said to him.
That's
So,
true.
but so that whole part of taking responsibility for your own happiness, and then some other people will say to me, well, sure, you're happy. You don't have any problems. Who do they think they are to say that to anybody? How do they know I don't have problems?
Exactly.
Right? I mean, everybody has problems. And all of us are recovering from whatever it was our parents did wrong. You know what I mean? I mean, I look back now on my poor mother and think, oh, did I really say that to her at one point? But she could answer. I was like, oh, okay, fine. Well, when you have your own, she once time said to me, I hope you have a kid just like you. And I did, my son. My daughter was much more easygoing. She's the harder one now.
Yes, I remember my mother using that line as well. That's a mother line to use. It really is. It's the ultimate. But it's all good. And they do come around, because it's like, I know I was so happy, I love my daughter, but I was so happy when she went away to college. It was like, thank God.
Oh, yes, it's the best
And now she's a wonderful person, and she was always a wonderful person, but it was, it was
they
just,
have to break away. My daughter's 18-year-old stepdaughter has finally left. That's actually probably what helped her begin. Anyway, I shouldn't say that, but she's difficult for her own reasons. She has other reasons, but she's a good kid, but she's 18. I think you have to hate your parents and they have to hate you in order for them to actually leave the nest.
yeah.
They'll come back.
Yeah.
They come back, we all came back at some point to mom and dad, and I had my son for 5 extra years when he was finishing his doctorate,
Yeah.
so, Yeah, I don't know. It's like that. So I think there, and that's again part of the curiosity part, which
Mhm.
is be curious about people,
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
person checking you out at the grocery store. Yesterday, the kid who packed my groceries, I said, "Thank you." Yeah, like I always do. He didn't even, most of them will kind of look up and say, "Oh, thank you," yeah, or "You're welcome," or I hate it when they say, you say thank you and they say not a problem when it's their job in the first place. Not a problem is not the right, but you shouldn't talk to a writer twice. What do you mean it's not a problem? It's your job in the first place to pack my groceries. I said to him, "Thank you," and he didn't say anything. And as I pushed my cart out, I thought, I mean, I wonder, maybe that age group doesn't say thank you. Maybe he didn't hear me. Maybe he's excessively shy. Maybe
Yeah.
he's on the spectrum.
Could be all sorts of reasons. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he had good
Mhm.
hair. I should have said something like, "I really like your ponytail," because I do, or did, and maybe I would have gotten a
That's
response.
true.
But
I could
the
have done.
cashier, she was all totally cheerful. My age, still having to wear a mask in there,
Mhm.
which
I know.
pick and
Oh,
choose those moments.
oh my goodness, this has been a delight, and I knew it was going to be. If someone listening to you wants to, learn more about you or check out your books or anything, where can they connect with you?
You can get all of my books on Amazon. All 3 of them are on Amazon. If you go directly to the book itself, it's an endlessly long address, so it's just put in Amazon Books. And then also, I'm quite active on both Instagram and Facebook. I had a YouTube channel. I still have it, but it's dormant right now. It
Mm.
stopped during the pandemic, and it's me talking about getting older, or my style of doing it, because that's another thing. I went to AA, and AA was great on, they don't give advice. They say, "Here's how I did it when I had your problem." And that
Mhm.
is amazing because people can hear it then.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true. Yeah.
So that's what I say about, why I don't wear a bathing suit in public. I don't care how pulled together I am. I can wear a bathing suit. I can't do the short sleeves though. My arms, it just, and it's terrible. I'm so strong. Anyway, and so so social media, I'm there under Ruth Yunker always, and the books are on Amazon.
All right, very good. Well, I will have all that information in the show notes. So for those of you who are listening somewhere where you can't write it down, just go to liveloveengagepodcast.com and look for this episode and you'll be able to get all that information. So thank you so much for spending some of your day with us today. I really appreciate it. It was a
Thank you
delight.
for having me. Where are you?
Oh, I'm in Florida. So I'm on the
Oh,
other
good.
side
So
of the
you know
country.
about heat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I lived up in Ponte Vedra for about 6 years. I think that's when my panic about heat starts. So we're having a heat wave here in California, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, I hate it." Thank God for air conditioning. So
Yeah.
you're in Florida.
I'm in
Somebody
Florida.
wants me to come to Miami and do the modeling thing there. He said, "You'll have a lot of work. Very easy."
That's true. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Michigan, and that's why I live in Florida. Because I,
Oh, well,
I, I had I had enough of the cold and the snow when I was growing up.
I see. Well, see, I miss it. I grew up in New England in
Oh,
Massachusetts,
okay.
and so but I've lived a lot of places, so
Yeah.
I'm only in Southern California. I don't even know why. Well, family gradually
Yeah.
migrated out here, so. Well, thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, thank you. And I appreciate all of you for watching and for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, I hope you'll share it with a friend. And until next time, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.
Um,